You've now had the opportunity to practice your long tail cast on, knit stitches, purl stitches, and your bind off. We are now going to get started with our project, which is our stockinette headband. If you look at your pattern, you can see that it tells us what size needle we need. This is a size 7 needle or 4.5 millimeters. You will need 2 stitch markers. They're little markers that are going to go on your needle, and they tell us when there's going to be a change in the pattern. You also have a darning needle, which we will use at the end of our project for sewing together our headband, and then our gauge. Gauge is something that is on every knitting pattern, and it tells us the number of expected stitches we should have on our needle in worsted weight yarn. This gauge tells us that the size that we have after we have completed our project is the expected size that the pattern designer has set up for making sure that sizing is done correctly. Our pattern tells us to cast on 20 stitches using the long tail cast on. Row 1 is our wrong side, WS, wrong side. We're going to knit 4 stitches. PM stands for place marker. We're going to purl 12 stitches, PM, place marker, and knit 4. That will be the end of row 1. Then we have row 2, which is right side, RS, right side, and we're going to knit 20 stitches. We're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 until the headband measures 20 inches or the desired length, ending after completing the wrong side row. So now that we've looked at our pattern, let's go ahead and get started with our project. I have already cast on my 20 stitches using my long tail cast on. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. Oh, I need to do one more stitch. Okay, there's my 20 stitches. Now we're going to begin our first row, which is a wrong side row, by knitting 4 stitches. Okay, I have knit my 4 stitches. Now I'm going to be placing our marker, PM, place marker, and this is going to tell us that we're going to change in our pattern from this edge to the center section, and then we'll place another marker which will tell us the rest of these stitches that we're going to be doing something different. Okay, so now I'm going to be purling 12 stitches. So remember, with purl, our yarn comes to the front. Oops. And we'll count here when we're done to make sure we have done 12 stitches. Okay, so we've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now we have 4 stitches left on our needle. So I'm going to place a marker, and then the last 4 stitches are going to be knit. So I'm going to bring my yarn to the back again, and we're going to knit the last 4 stitches. We have completed row 1, which is our wrong side row of our headband. Okay, there we are. We have finished row 1, which is our wrong side row and we're going to turn around our work and work back. I'm going to turn my yarn around, and remember how we talked about at the beginning about being careful to make sure that your yarn is in the correct placement before you begin your next row. So I'm going to have my yarn down, and I'm going to knit 20 stitches. When I get to this marker, all I'm going to do is slip it over to the next needle. Because on the right side row, we're not going to be changing anything. And so our right side row is only knitting. So we'll go ahead and do our knit stitches all the way across for 20 stitches. I'm to my next marker. I'm just going to slip it over to my right hand needle and knit the last 4. You'll see what the markers are for here on our next row. Okay, we have now completed one right side row and one wrong side row. And if you'll notice, we're starting to see our pattern where these first 4 stitches and the last 4 stitches have our garter stitch, and the center 12 stitches are what we call stockinette stitch, which means we have a knit stitch on both sides, or on the right side, and then on the ends it looks a little different. So now I'm going to turn around, and we're going to go back on the wrong side again, wrong side row. Our markers will tell us when we need to change from knit stitches to purl stitches. So I'm going to knit the first 4 stitches. And you'll notice that we have 4 stitches in knit. Our marker tells us we're going to be changing, so we're going to slip that marker. The next 12, instead of knitting, we're going to be purling those next 12 stitches. So our yarn comes to the front, and we're going to purl the next 12 stitches. I'm just about to my marker. Okay, now I've purled my 12 stitches. Here's my 12 stitches. My marker is here. That tells me I'm going to be changing my pattern. So I'm going to slip my marker. I'm going to bring my yarn to the back because we need to knit the last 4 stitches. And we've completed another wrong side row. If I turn this around, you're definitely starting to see the pattern develop. So you're going to continue doing row 1 and row 2 until your headband measures 20 inches. At that point, you will bind off using the bind off technique that we taught in one of the videos. And in the final video of this series, you will learn how to sew your headband together so that you can wear it. So that is the stockinette stitch headband. You also have a pattern that I have completed for you in your kit for a ribbed headband, which is a knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch. And this is just going to teach you and give you a little bit more comfort with transitioning your yarn from the back to the front. And so you have enough yarn in your kit to complete both the stockinette stitch headband and the ribbed headband. So happy knitting, and we'll meet up again for learning how to sew your headband together.